Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for tuning in. First, this is our live show. We intended to do a show today, but frankly, the day simply was consumed by work. So we're going to combine our regular show where we talk about cases in the news, as well as take your questions on the chat as we go throughout the evening. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, if you would please hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't done so, also please hit that little bell in the corner so that you can receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. We appreciate everyone being here. For those of you who are new to us, my name is Scott Reisch. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney, have been doing so for the last 25 years, and have handled just about every type of case that you could possibly imagine. So when I speak about the cases, I talk about the facts and the law, and we try to keep it very simple when it comes to that, the facts and the law. Keep it short on speculation, and just keep things moving along. That's for sure, because, well, that's what the law is supposedly based upon. Equal justice, which means people's politics, people's family status shouldn't come into play whatsoever. It's simply, has a crime been alleged and can it be proven by the state beyond a reasonable doubt? So we brought you a story yesterday on our docket that a search warrant had been conducted at the home of the adoptive grandparents of Orson West and Orrin West. Well, today the Bakersfield Police Department confirmed that they did in fact execute search warrants at the residence in East Bakersfield on Friday afternoon. And although there were some reports that items were taken away in brown paper bags, which would indicate there's something of evidentiary value, no word has been given as to what they have actually found. Next on the docket, the jury selection process continues in the Derek Chauvin matter. And I wish all cases, defense attorneys and prosecutors were given this much time to conduct voir dire when it comes to potential jurors. That would be fabulous. Usually, in most jurisdictions, you get about an hour to talk to, some 50 some odd people, usually in that general jury pool. They're taking an hour per juror, at least more in some cases. And today it was so obvious that there was a gentleman, and I appreciate his honesty and candor when he was going through jury selection, that he would say, yeah, I formed an opinion, but if I had to be fair and impartial, I would do my best, but I really don't know if I can get it out of my mind. And the judge ultimately said, hey, listen, you two are two very skilled attorneys going in this particular case, and you're able to lead the potential juror down the path where basically he'll say, not whatever he wants to say, but he'll agree with the proposition that they're putting forward. And ultimately the judge said, I'm not going to allow this juror. He'd already formed an opinion and did not like the defendant. It was a negative opinion of the defendant, and decided to let him go. I was just surprised that it took at least 30, 45 minutes to get through that particular juror. Then the one immediately after that was a gentleman. I don't know how it ultimately turned out, because I had to go do other work things at the time. But he was self-employed, really didn't want to be here, was concerned about it. And then they started asking the $27 million question. Are you aware of the settlement? And the juror said, yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. Don't they usually wait till the trial's over? I mean, this is coming from jurors, okay? And we've talked about this before. Hey, the city has a big checkbook. Their insurance companies have a big checkbook. And hats off to the attorney for getting his client $27 million, the highest settlement for a civil rights case that doesn't go to trial. So, that's hats off to them. But everybody is thinking, what the hell? Why did they enter into this settlement? Why did they not wait until the trial was over? I think, as the attorney for Derek Chauvin made in his motion to the court, he wants a continuance or he wants a change of venue because the announcement of that $27 million settlement for George Floyd's family could make receiving a fair trial impossible. So the attorney is Eric Nelson. He raised the possibility of renewing his previous unsuccessful motion. But the judge says they are going to talk to every juror from here on out about the settlement, as well as bring the previous, I believe, 7 jurors that they've already selected and see if that affects them in any way. Obviously, this couldn't cut both ways. The defense can certainly try to embrace it and say, obviously, the city is admitting that they did not train Derek Chauvin properly, and you can't blame him responsible. We know there's already one person responsible, and that's the city of Minneapolis because they've paid. If they decide to bring that in and open that door up. Obviously, it helps for the prosecution as well because, well, why are they paying $27 million if he did do nothing wrong? Clearly, the city must be determining that. I just find it to be a little suspicious as to the timing. Now, the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, and if anybody recalls Keith Ellison, he used to be a member of Congress. He was like the head of I don't know, one of the parties, but he's very politically active guy. His first calling wasn't to be a prosecutor or the attorney general. It's a stepping stone to other things. Well, his son, Jeremiah, sits on the city council that approved the settlement. And so the attorney for Chauvin is questioning the timing as to whether it was done to actually prejudice the defense in any way. And can I say, from my time watching the judge handle this matter, Judge Peter Cahill, I'm very impressed with him. He gets it. At least from what I've seen, he's just trying to get a jury of fair and impartial jurors, and he's doing everything he can to make sure both sides receive a fair trial. So very, very impressed with him so far. I like it when you have good, experienced judges running a courtroom. But I'm a little surprised, even in a high-profile case like this, as to why it's taking. He's letting basically the attorneys talk for as much time as they want. And then they lets the other side get up and rehabilitate the juror. Well, I know you formed a negative opinion, but if the judge were to give you an instruction and you didn't like it, but that's the law, do you still think you could put yourself over the top, to follow the instructions, put away your own personal beliefs? And he gives, this potential juror, to his credit, he gives the perfunctory answer. People are generally very honest when it comes to jury selection, in my experience. But they also don't want to be perceived as someone that can't be fair. So they always try to qualify it. Well, sure, I don't like the defendant, and I saw the video numerous times, and I couldn't believe how somebody would choke somebody like that when they were down. But I guess if I was asked to do so, I guess I could put aside my personal beliefs. Yeah, no, you can't. Just get rid of the guy. Once he says that, move along. No need to spend 40 minutes trying to rehabilitate, then to come back and try to rehabilitate the rehabilitation. Just get rid of them. They have, I think, 6,000 jurors at their disposal. They'll find enough people. Just keep the process moving. Normally, in voir dire, even in a homicide trial, most judges, they give you about an hour, and you get to talk to, the people, the 25 in the box, maybe another 25 that'll be called in if somebody gets removed for cause. So you get, that's less than 1 minute. I guess 50 people 1.1 seconds, whatever it comes out to. If you got 50 people to talk to, you're literally maybe get to talk to everybody if you were lucky, but usually get to talk to the first 25. So these attorneys on both sides are getting an opportunity to do something that they rarely get to do, which is go into an in-depth voir dire. But that's great. The judge recognizes it, giving them an opportunity to do so, understanding the importance of this case. Let's have fair jurors so that we can only do this trial once. So hats off to the judge. Nice job to the attorneys. Very good voir dire. I'm not going to lie. There were a couple of questions in there I'm going to steal. That's how much, how I thought they were doing a really, really good job. So moving along, next on the docket. All right. This is one of these things where you just can't make it up. But 4 people were killed in an argument over a $1,400 stimulus checks. A man suspected of fatally shooting a family of 4 at his home in Indianapolis on Saturday night reportedly flew into a rage when his former partner refused to split her recent $1,400 stimulus check with him. Malik Halfakre, F-A-L-F-A-C-R-E. Halfakre. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. That's why we spelled it. Anyway, he demanded that a Jeanette Moore give him half of her COVID-19 relief payment in an argument that culminated in the death of 4 people, including a child. Can you believe that? Like, are you kidding me? Now, obviously, we will give Malik the presumption of innocence, but really, 4 people dead over $1,400. Not even $1,400, half of $1,400. Apparently, the fight started when Malik said, "I want the money." Ms. Moore said, "No, you don't deserve any of it. I work. I take care of our children. You don't do anything." Apparently, Moore agreed to give the shooter, Mr. Halfakre, $450, telling him he could take it or leave it. Not really sure why he would have got any of it, but needless to say, now 4 people are dead over a stimulus check. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Excuse me. All I've done is talk all day on Zoom calls. So, excuse me, I'm a little parched. All right. And today, our dumb criminal contestant of the day, he is identified as Jacob Koakik. Now, you may recall there was a video in Michigan the other day where a man was in the same house as the victim and they were trying to do a motions hearing, and she kept looking over like, should I answer the question? Should I not? And somehow the police figured out, the DA figured out, the judge figured out, Judge Jeffrey Middleton, that the guy was in the same house with the victim. Basically, the police were called and he was caught and the guy went to jail. Well, there's another case where Jacob Koakik, K-E-O-K-U-K, Keokuk, Jacob Keokuk. He has a court appearance for driving on a suspended license. And needless to say, when you're in court for driving on a suspended license, you don't want to drive to court, or in this case, appear via WebEx, via sitting in a car. And the court said, you're being sentenced this week after pleading guilty to no insurance and driving with a suspended license, and you're actually sitting in a car. The judge basically said, are you that dumb? And the judge said, it makes me think that you haven't got the message. And the prosecuting attorney asked the judge to impose jail because he was driving at the time that he got the ticket, a Ford Taurus with 4 adults and 3 children, one of the children not wearing a seatbelt, doing 75 miles an hour on a country road. The man insisted, Mr. Keokuk insisted, that he was sitting in his boss's vehicle and that he didn't drive there. He said he didn't want to appear in court while at someone's house, and he said he picks his boss gave him the opportunity to sit in his pickup truck so that he could appear for court. The judge said he would take it in good faith. And then the judge asked what most judges, what do you want to do? Pay a fine or go to jail? And he says, well, I don't want to pay your damn fine or go to jail. He's don't want to say he was a single dad with 2 kids. And the judge said, well, you don't get a single dad deal, and basically put him on a payment plan. Everybody has an excuse not to pay, but Mr. Keokuk, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. Why? Not because you got mouthy with the judge and telling me you didn't want to pay your damn fine or go to jail, but because you appeared in a truck in court when you were there for sentencing on driving and not having insurance. The judge cut you a break, but remember, perception is reality. So, Mr. Keokuk, next time you go to court via video and it's for driving, don't be in your car. Just a little heads up, good little advice you can take. Take it to the bank. It'll save you a whole lot of trouble for sure. All right. So we did our show there rather quickly and abbreviated, but that's okay because it's been one of those days. Let's go to your questions that you would like to have asked. We'll scroll up here to the top of the chat screen and see what we can come up with. And if I haven't said so already, I think I did, but please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Hit the like. And although we do not necessarily ask for super chats, it sure does make it a little easier when we go through these chats over here to answer the questions. Let's see here. Carol, I think jurors should have to have a certain IQ to be considered for jury duty. People's lives are on the line. Some moron could cause permanent harm. Well, Carol, guess what? The general requirements are that you live in the jurisdiction where you are served to be a juror, that you can read, speak, and understand the English language. And the reason for that is all the instructions are in English, the jury instructions, and the witnesses will be testifying in jury instructions. You can't have 50 or 12 different interpreters. They do that for witnesses, but it's only one person, obviously. But that is the general qualifications. And part of the beauty of jury is that you have 12 people that no matter what your status is in life, whether you are unemployed or you have more degrees than people could shake a stick at, everyone's vote is counted absolutely equally. That's the beautiful thing about it. You truly do get a cross section of the community, and that is a good thing. And I believe that jurors are very smart. You may get a couple in there that maybe not so smart. We refer to them affectionately as plant life, that they will kind of go whichever way the sun is shining or whichever way the trend is going. But for the most part, jurors are very, very smart. Jurors collectively, 12 people, you have to convince them. 12 people are generally pretty skeptical about what goes on in the world, which is a good thing. All right. I mean, you shouldn't just take anybody's word for just about anything, particularly if you don't know them, right? The witnesses in the case, you don't know who they are. You've never met them. That's another beautiful thing. So you have to judge their credibility just by their appearance on the witness stand, their demeanor, their ability to recollect, their ability to recall what they believe they saw, what they heard at the event that is the subject of the criminal case. So I think, Carol, I understand your concern, but I can tell you from the jurors that I have seen, I haven't seen them all that have gone through voir dire because I try to keep it on going as I'm working in my office, but I don't get to hear it all. Most of the people seem very, very smart, very intelligent, because most people are, okay? Most people have common sense, and that's what you need. I don't think you need a bunch of degrees. You need common sense. bottom line. So let's see here. Wadi Ever. Yes, people are freaking losing it all over the place. It is a weird time, to say the least. Illinois in the U.S. is still some restrictions. Some states have none. I'm not sure what's that in response to, but yeah, COVID stuff. I'm not sure. Did you see that the Kansas State Senate majority leader got arrested last night on a DUI? Always interesting when elected officials get arrested. And apparently in this particular case, he decided to elude the police officer after a short time realized this was futile. And most people don't know this, but most legislators cannot be arrested while they're in session, except for disturbances of the peace. What's the word I'm looking for? Treason and high crimes, things like that. And it's in most state constitutions, if not all. And the reason being is that years ago, if people get arrested on the way to being a state representative, if they maybe weren't in the right party at the time or had a differing view or were going to be an obstructionist or something along those lines, they would have people arrested. So they said you can't be arrested as you're en route to perform your official duties. However, I don't believe basically driving late at night, being intoxicated and then eluding police officers gets a free pass. Most people's like, oh, well, I accept responsibility, yada, yada, yada. But I think it's always a little ironic. I mean, let's face it, we are all flawed human beings. No one would want to be judged based upon the worst moments in their life. But when you are in public office and you are telling people how to live their lives, you have one job. And that one job is, right, not to be a hypocrite. And yet they always, never, ever cease to let me down by the high record failures that they have. Let's see here. Cleave it to Diener. Wow, my daughter's mom actually gave me $800 of the $1,400. So glad I went different in my case. That's good, I don't know about you, but I have yet to receive any stimulus checks ever, so I'm not sure. But hey, if they wanted to send me $1,400, I mean, I'm not going to turn it down, but I've yet to get anything. So, yeah, Richard Cranium, doesn't he get his own $1,400? That's right. Maybe he spent it. And it sounds like the deceased in that particular case, the woman that was not wanting to give up her $1,400, says, I take care of the kids. I work. So if we read between the lines, it sounds like perhaps the defendant in that case was not an employed individual. We'll just leave it at that. Kathy, Scott, you're looking a tiny bit exhausted. It's funny. Frank, the hardest working man in show business, the man that keeps everything going, editing, keeps us live, keeps the microphones up. We were both kind of talking today. Man, I don't know about you, but are you just tired? And maybe it was all the snow shoveling that we had to do because we had that little blizzard. But here's the beautiful thing about Colorado. Literally this morning, half the snow that fell was gone. However, I believe it's supposed to start snowing again, but hopefully it'll be gone soon. Just saying. Sugar Butt Williams, as they say, money talks, or it's always about the money. It's too bad that 4 people had to lose their lives because of that. Not sure about that. If someone seems not to be intelligent enough, they'll probably be excused. Yeah, Kirsten. I mean, like I said, most jurors are very, very smart. Very, very smart. They get it. They have common sense. And if not, the other people will usually bring them around. But yeah, do not ever underestimate a jury. Usually they make the right decisions. Although I must say, I had a jury trial the other week. A little disappointed. Not gonna harp on that. Sure, they came back with the lowest charge they possibly could when you're charged with a homicide. However, I hate losing, and it's one of those cases that kept me up at night because I really liked my client, and I really, really thought that he never should have been charged in the first place. But what can you do other than appeal? We'll see what comes of everything, but it's always tough when it's the clients that you actually like and they should never have been charged. Kathy, little Winnie. Yes, the lovely Miss Kristen has Miss Winnie, the bulldog, at home. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but not everybody. Some will know it. But Miss Winnie, the bulldog, has an Instagram account and a TikTok account. Now, the TikTok, she has over 500 followers on her TikTok account. Can you believe that? That's right. 500 followers. A dog. In a month. I mean, literally. Almost in no time. Like, God, if I knew this social media stuff were so easy, I'd be doing it myself. That's a whole lot of hard work. But apparently, if you're a dog, everybody just does it. Winnie she's adorable. She's getting so big. You know, she's a little puppy. She's only, I think, 14 weeks old now. But, I mean, she was just a little puppy, English bulldog puppy. And now she went to the vet the other day. She's getting big. She's like 25 pounds. And they're like, yeah, she's probably going to double. And I've had bulldogs in the past, and they get big. And, they're, just solid, chunky. But you just do not, you just don't realize how solid they are. Anyway, she's probably the smartest bulldog ever. So you should go to TikTok, Miss Winnie the Bulldog, and follow her. She's pretty darn cute. Let's see here. Welcome to the live chat. Let's see here. One of my cats has her own Instagram, and she has quite a few followers. Carly Power. I guess, isn't that really how all this started? YouTube started by people putting up their dog pictures and things like that. It'd be a lot easier, I assure you, than that, than trying to, do a show every day and trying to keep up with everything else. That's for sure. But who knows? Maybe one of these days we will, get up to 1 million followers. Wouldn't that be nice? 1 million followers. Scott could quit his day job. We could literally fly, jump in Crime Talk 1, head out to all the interesting true crime sites, go over everything, produce amazing documentaries. Yeah, that'd be fabulous. All we need is just 830,000 more followers to 1 million. So share it, like it, tell a friend, have them subscribe, pay them to have them subscribe. That'd be great. Let's see here. It's weird. Kay is really sad about 4 people being murdered over $1,400. I live in Indianapolis all my life, but the murders are out of control every day. That's the reason why I moved out about an hour out of the city. Yeah, Indianapolis is actually, down there by the hotels and the stadium, very, very nice. Is it Lucas Field, which is the field there for the Colts? I think it's Lucas Field. I think so. But gorgeous football stadium, nice place, to kind of hang out, so to speak. It's good. It's good place. But it's crazy everywhere. If you look at the crime rates for violent crime, the numbers are up big time. And I don't know whether it is, all COVID related. Is it lack of police related? crime, even in my little neighborhood, okay? And I think it's a nice neighborhood, but it's still in Denver. And Denver basically lets just about anything go. So the lovely Miss Kristen had her car. She parked it outside one night. I'm like, oh, it's just going to be one night. It's late. Not going to drive it around to the garage. It'll be there in the morning. And then the other day I noticed somebody stole the little center caps on her car, on the wheels, just on the left-hand side. Like, can you believe it? And I don't have time to sit and go through and watch video the entire night to see if somebody walked up and popped out the little things there. Then the other day, the car window on another car that was there was just shattered. Now, I don't know, do windows spontaneously shatter, or does somebody have to do something? Nothing obvious, but... And then I had my bike stolen. I know people, they don't care about Scott's bike being stolen, but the reality is two bikes were stolen from my garage. Pissed me off. So not only did I lose out on the bikes, but then I, installed like a super fancy camera system that looks like daylight, even though it's in the middle of the night. So it's just, crime affects everybody. All right. And I'm telling you not as a criminal defense attorney, I'm telling you as a member of the public, that stuff adds up, right? You get a bike stolen. Okay, fine. Fortunately, I had insurance. Homeowners insurance covered it. Well, what if I wanted to go buy a bike and I didn't have an extra money to go buy another bike? I'd be out. What if that bike was my transportation to the office and I couldn't afford it? I mean, it adds up, but it just irritates me when people take things of other people when it's not their stuff. Keep your hands off other people's stuff. All right? It's just frustrating as all get up. Okay, if I hit this sometime. Okay, we got a super chat. Oh, wow, we got a Shadow. Can Lori and Chad have additional charges added just to keep them in jail while evidence is being processed for murder charges? They are a flight risk. Good question, Shadow. The reality of it is the speedy trial clock is ticking on for Chad and Lori, really against the state. The state has 6 months from the date that they entered a plea of not guilty to get them to trial. I think their trial date is late July, if I remember correctly. And if the state doesn't get them to trial during that time, they're without a waiver of speedy trial by the defendant, the case would in theory be dismissed. Rarely, if ever, does a case get dismissed on speedy trial grounds, although I'm trying to work on changing that here because of some things that took place. But anyway, I digress. And I truly am of the mindset that if the prosecutor goes forward on these charges and doesn't charge a murder charge, you cannot piecemeal these cases. You can't say, well, we found these children on your property, and so we're going to prosecute you for that. And if we find you guilty or not guilty of that, then we'll charge you with murder. There's a concept called compulsory joinder. You can't piecemeal a case. If prosecutors know about a case, they have a duty and obligation to bring them and charge them. I would be if I was the defense attorney, I would say if they thought they had enough to charge them, they should charge it by now. I mean, let's face it, Chad and Lori were not going to fall off the face of the earth. People would have followed them around. The police would have known where they were. So if they didn't have enough evidence to charge them, they shouldn't have charged them on smaller counts. They should have waited and get all their ducks in a row. I get it. They were under a lot of pressure. Why are an arrest being made? Let's face it, police chiefs, prosecutors, district attorneys, it's a political job. They want to keep their constituents happy. How come you're not doing something? How come you're not doing something? Do something, right? There's a politician. Do something. Fine, I'll do something. It may not be the best thing or the right thing at the time, but they're going to do something. And so here we are. These counts of basically tampering with evidence carry 5 years. There's 2 counts each, looking at maximum 10 years if they were given the max with a consecutive sentence, one after another, 10 years. Frankly, not that big a deal. I mean, not that anybody wants to go to prison for 10 years, but they're not going to serve 10 years in prison. I mean, if you got away with murder, and I'm not saying they did because we're given the presumption of innocence, right? That's what we do. And if you got away from it, they're like, oh, you're only giving me 10 years? Okay. Like, I would be rushing to get them to trial. Let's get the trial. Let's do it now. Why are we continuing everything? Let's get the trial. We want to go to trial now, tomorrow. Let's go. We're ready. Even if they're found guilty, 10 years? Okay. But they may have, in theory, speculation, if they're responsible or some way responsible for those children, they're getting away with a free pass with only 10 years. So it doesn't always make sense just to charge somebody to charge something. You got to look at it big picture. But sometimes politicians look at little picture instead of the big picture because they have to do something now. DAs are politicians. All right. So thanks for that super chat there, Shadow and King. Please tell us about the voir dire process. Okay. This is in regards to talking about Derek Chauvin. Voir dire is the most important part of any trial. I don't care how good or bad you think your facts are. If you get a good jury, anybody can win. That's why when people say, what are my odds if I go to trial? I could tell you no better than 50-50. And that's assuming you get a jury that's going to listen. Okay. In most cases, right? We have to have juries. Most people don't want a trial to the bench. Why? Most judges are hacks, are they not? Let's face it. Most of them were former prosecutors. They give great deference to the police. A trial to the court could take 20 minutes, where if you go to trial, it could take 3 days. So, and in a trial to the court, the prosecutor only has to convince one person, the judge. A trial to a jury, the prosecutor has to prove each and every element of the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And the decision must be unanimous. Beyond a reasonable doubt, not a vague, imaginary, or speculative doubt, but a doubt that would cause people to pause in matters of great importance to them. Okay? So at that point, the jurors are going to be called in. They usually come from the voter rolls, and it's generated by a computer. And people say, all right, you've been selected to come to jury service on a particular day. If it is a big case or a high profile case, they will call in lots of jurors. I think the most I've ever had called in for a case was 600 jurors in a particular case, so that we could get 12 jurors and I think 2 alternates is what we had in that particular case. Here in the Derek Chauvin matter, I believe they have some 6,000 jurors that they have brought in as potential jurors. And they're doing individual voir dire of each juror. Normally, what a judge does is they will bring in, all right, if you think about it, each side gets, there's going to be 12 jurors plus an alternate, right? So if you have your little jury seat, like they used to when they all could all sit next to each other, not all spread out. And they're sitting in the jury box. So you're going to get 6. You're going to have 12 jurors. Each side is going to usually get, and it depends on jurisdictions, but for example, here in Colorado, you get 5 peremptory challenges. And peremptory challenges are challenges whereby you can get rid of a juror for any reason that you want. Okay. And so each side is going to get 5. So you need 12 plus the number of jurors. You get another peremptory. So usually 6 for an alternate. So you're going to have 14 jurors plus 12. You're going to have 26 jurors sitting in a box. And those are your presumptive jurors. So you have, 12 of them in the box, maybe a couple sitting on the side. And then each courtroom usually sets up chairs in front for the rest of the 26 jurors. And the judge will do their normal statutory requirements. Who here knows anybody in the case? Are you employed by law enforcement? And these are what they refer to as statutory challenges for cause. Police officers, you work for the district attorney's office, you work for state patrol, you work for the public defender's office, you're a compensated employee of a law enforcement agency, boom, you're out the door. You're just excused. If you know somebody, if you've posted a bond for somebody, and not really that important in big cities, but when you get to smaller jurisdictions like the trial I just did, everybody knew everybody. The judge said, anybody in here knows somebody that's on jury service? Every hand went up. They all knew somebody, and so you got to ask them about that. Is that going to affect their ability? Because they do know people there. So the judge does his individual voir dire. He'll usually ask each juror to go around, pass the microphone. They usually have a list on the board. Maybe sometimes the jurisdiction does a little questionnaire, so maybe you'll get a little questionnaire. What do you do? Where do you work? Usually in cases if there's something kind of seedy, if it's a homicide, usually violent crime, sexual assault cases, you do juror questionnaires just because you want to get rid of jurors that this is just not the case for them. Not saying they wouldn't be a good juror, but simply saying not the case for them today. And you can just agree to get rid of them, and the guy like, I don't believe in the government. They got fringe in the flag, blah, blah, those kind of, just get rid of them. Don't care, don't need them, whatever. So you get the jury, they're in the jury box. Judge has done their introductory. Then each juror goes around and says, hi, my name is Scott. I like long walks on the beach. I like a good cigar. And I really don't want to be here, but if I do, I think I could probably make my way through it. They tell them a little about stuff, where they work, are they married, they have kids, etc. And that's about it. And that goes around for each juror normally. Like I said, in Chauvin, they're bringing in one at a time because they're worrying about taint. They don't want to taint the jury pool if somebody says something like, nobody would pay $27 million unless somebody was guilty, right? Well, it's a civil case, completely different standard of proof, but we digress. Then each side usually gets to voir dire. Voir dire is a French term. It is a French term that means speak the truth. And I always tell people, listen, they named it voir dire, speak the truth. I don't care if you want to get out of jury service because you don't like me. You don't like my tie. Just tell me the truth. I don't care. Frankly, I got plenty more jurors to choose from. I want people that are going to be fair and impartial so that at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, everybody can look and say, we had a fair shake. It just didn't go our way or went our way. Either way, fair jurors. Fair jurors are someone that can give the defendant the presumption of innocence. And what does the presumption of innocence mean? Like there was a juror today. He's like, well, I've already formed a pretty negative opinion of Derek Chauvin. I just can't imagine why somebody would do that. Doesn't sound like he can give him the presumption of innocence. The presumption of innocence is basically you have to say is, I don't believe the allegations. You have to say, I don't believe it. That is the presumption of innocence. It isn't, well, I think he probably did something, but I guess I could try to work my way back up to level playing field. No. And that's why people need to be honest. And I think the jurors are, in fact, at least the ones I've heard, are being honest when they say, hey, I've got concerns, but I can serve. I know little about this case, and I'm willing to listen. It'll be an inconvenience, but it's my civic duty, that kind of thing. So you want to find those jurors. You want to find people that understand that the defense doesn't have to do a damn thing. The defense doesn't have to call a witness. The defense doesn't have to ask a question. The defense can literally sit there, no questions, Your Honor. No questions, Your Honor. Get up and say the government has failed to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. You have to let jurors understand that. There's an instruction that says the defendant has nothing, doesn't have to testify. We always want to hear both sides of the story. It's just natural. Well, what happened? Let me go over here and see what they have to say, and we'll see, the truth somewhere in between. The defendant never has to do that. People need to understand that. If they can't say, well, I want to hear from both sides, well, you have to educate them. You don't get to hear from both sides. You also want to educate the jury on the fact that just because the prosecution calls the witness, that could be a defense witness as well. Because when you cross-examine them, you're getting evidence out of that witness and explain to them. Instead of the prosecution asking questions and then the witness leaving and then coming back for the defense to ask them questions, we do direct, cross, redirect. So even if the defense is asking questions and the evidence, the answers are evidence, right? So you understand that's where it comes from. So a lot of times we don't need to present a defense in the defense case because we are already getting the evidence from the necessary witnesses that the prosecution is calling. All right. Sometimes the best witnesses for the defense are the prosecution witnesses. So in voir dire, what you're looking for then is are people that can be fair and impartial. And some people will tell you, this just isn't the right case for me. You know, I was the victim of police brutality. I just need to, let him, it's not the right case. Fine. That I get it. There's always people on there. It's like, I can't judge people. My religion won't allow me to judge people. You have to explain to them. You're not judging people, whether they're good people or bad people. Just simply whether the facts as alleged took place or not. And I always try to give an example whereby saying, I understand you don't want to be here, but imagine if you got a jury summons for a civil case, a car accident case, and both sides are saying, we were at the stoplight and each party's claiming they had the green light. You're going to hear evidence and you're going to decide different legal standard of proof in a civil case. But the reality of it is who had the green light? You're deciding a question of fact. That's what jurors decide. And I always try to let jurors know, the reason why we stand up for jurors when you all come in and out of the courtroom is you are judges. You are judges of fact, right? Just like the judge is the judge of law. Is this question legally permissible? The judge decides yes or no. It's permissible under the law. He rules on evidentiary issues, testimonial issues, those types of things. The judge of law. The jurors are judges of fact. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they got like the little black robe for the week, but instead they usually just get the juror badge, which is cool in and of itself. But I think, as a judge, you should probably get to wear the little black robe, right? Then you're going to have to ask questions of the jurors on both sides, both prosecution and defense, particularly in the case of Chauvin, where, he's a police officer. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people say, would you give more weight and credibility to a police officer simply because they're a police officer? And I'm telling you, 20 years ago, boom, the hands went up like that. These days, not so much. I think most people realize police officers are humans. They are, most of them are very good people trying to do the best they can. But at the end of the day, they're humans. They make mistakes. They don't know everything. They're not experts in everything. They're police officers. And the dirty little secret is most police officers weren't there. They didn't get to see it. So they usually just take reports. In today's world, a lot of more body cameras. A lot of people want to see body cameras. If it's not on body camera, it didn't happen, right? Used to be if it wasn't on paper, it didn't happen. These days, if it's not on video, it didn't happen. And even then, we talked about the morphine lady the other day on our show where she was sending more pictures of her daughter's cheerleading competition. So even then, you got to be careful of what's on video, right? So you ask those questions. And then at the end, once the prosecution does their individual voir dire or the defense does their individual voir dire, the judge will usually say, approach. Are there any challenges for cause? Sometimes there's jurors you just don't like, but they haven't said anything that rose to a level of cause. Level of cause would be they have already formed an opinion of the case. They can't be fair and impartial to one particular side. That would be a challenge for cause. Your Honor, we challenged juror number 7. She said that she would give more weight and credibility to a police officer. She also said that my client has beady little eyes and she doesn't trust people with beady little eyes. We move for a challenge for cause. The judge would then ask, Do you have an objection? Good DA would say, well, Your Honor, we all have beady little eyes. In fact, Your Honor has beady little eyes. So that can't be indicative, and she appears to like you. And although they said be more weight and credibility police officer, I believe the court did individual voir dire with her that she would say that she would follow your instructions, Your Honor. Well, your judge is like, well, I better ask her. Ma'am, you'd follow my instructions, wouldn't you? Yes, I would. If a police officer would testify, you wouldn't give him more weight and credibility than anybody else, would you? No, Your Honor. Judge says, I'm going to deny the challenge for cause. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. You can do Batson challenges at that time as well. Particularly more, I guess I'm jumping ahead of that. But so if a juror is in fact excused for challenge for cause, then they bring in another person. They fill them in their seat. Then we start all over again with that particular juror. Tell me about yourself. Prosecution have questions. You've heard everything that we've talked about. Anything we should know about you? No. What kind of bumper stickers do you have in your car? I still think that's the best question ever. You can tell a lot about a person by the bumper stickers, or no bumper stickers, I might add, on their car. So you get past the cause stage, everybody's there. Then you start getting to do peremptory challenges. Like I said, 6 of them in most circumstances, at least here in Colorado, where you say, fine, prosecution jumps up. Your Honor, we would thank and excuse juror number 12, all right? Because you can only strike from the peremptory 12 jurors. And you may know who the alternate is. Sometimes judges will say, defense counsel, have your client pick a number between 1 and 12. That's going to be our alternate. Okay, number 2. Boom. Number 2 is the alternate. Only people who know that are the judge, the defendant, and the attorneys and the clerks in the courtroom. And so you get rid of juror number 12 in that example. Then juror number 13 moves into number 12. The defense says we get rid of number 2. So then juror number 14 will move into seat number 2, and so on and so on. It's kind of like little musical chairs. It's actually quite interesting to watch. A lot of little strategy that's going on, and good stuff, so to speak. And then you have your jury, and you hope you picked right. And during that process, everybody's kind of going back and forth. Gee, I don't know. What do you think? You ask your defendant, did you notice anybody you like, don't like? Were they staring at you? Were they giving you dirty looks, throwing daggers at you with their eyes? And you use a peremptory challenge, you can get rid of them for any reason, with one exception. You can't get rid of people based upon their race. So if you have a black defendant or, let's say, Hispanic defendant, and the prosecutor is trying to get rid of all of the black jurors or Hispanic jurors, you can make a Batson challenge where, and it's based upon a case, Kentucky v. Batson, whereby in that particular case, the court said, yeah, you can't get rid of people based upon their race, particularly if they're more associated, associated with the defendant's race. And the laws kind of fluctuated on that before. The Supreme Court gives you a little bit of guidance, then law changes. Each case is different. But basically, it used to be if the prosecutor can provide any neutral reason, well, Your Honor, the juror had beady little eyes, and I just don't trust people with beady little eyes, and I'm going to ask for that. Some judge would be like, that's good enough. Other judges are like, and I've actually won Batson challenges where DAs, and DAs don't like it because basically you're saying you are trying to do something based upon race, which would make you look like a bad person. And they get very offended when the judges start telling jurors, have a seat, you're sticking around. So that's the jury selection process. And I'm telling you, the luxury that both sides are being afforded in the Chauvin matter are amazing. I mean, I wish everybody, I would love to take every potential juror out to lunch, get to know them, see what they really think about a case. Normally, you get about 30 seconds per juror. You're moving around as quick as you can. Why? Because we're moving these cases along. And even in the case where we had 600 jurors, even in that case, I mean, it gets redundant after a while. So you just kind of cut through it. But these attorneys, there's a lot of stuff going on. They're picking a jury, which means they're not focusing on their case, but this is the most important part. And this case will be probably won or lost, obviously, based upon jury selection. We'll see. And whether people are absolutely fair. So hopefully that explains the voir dire process. My dear Super Chat friend there. Let's see. We got some more Super Chats. Sorry, it was a little long-winded, but I think it's interesting. I love doing voir dire. It is the best. It's the most exciting time, in my opinion, because it's the only time you really ever get to talk to the jurors. And you have to try and, the old thing, you don't judge a book by its cover. I've had jurors walked in, they're looking at my client like, oh man, geez, I don't like him. And then you talk to them and they're like, wow, that look that they were giving my client, that's just the way they look all the time. They just got that scowl on their face. Or they're here and they're looking down, think they didn't want to be, it's because they're embarrassed because they have somebody in a similar situation. It is, like I said, I like it. I really do. Thank you, Anne. Most beautiful description of voir dire ever. I feel smarter. Thank you. Well, that's the goal. Hopefully to educate. That was the goal of this channel. I can't believe we're talking about that. We did a little live today with Linda. And it's a crime. And I know some people are like, oh, I don't like Linda. You know what? She's obviously very prosecutorial on her side, which is fine. I'm a defense attorney, but it doesn't mean we can't be friends. And like I said, we keep it to the facts. So thank you, Ann. I hope you learned something about voir dire. Like I said, I love it. I think it's the most important thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's see here. And I cannot pronounce this, but D-A-G, is it Dagny? Oh, Dagny. Right? Dagny. That's right. One of the lead characters in Ayn Rand, right? Question: would you have ever asked a potential juror during voir dire if they vote for Trump? And if so, what would that have meant for your decision? That question would probably be impermissible. However, you can ask other ways, okay? The best way, and sometimes you can just tell, right? You can tell what political persuasion they may be. And remember, each jury is different. Maybe it depends on the charge. Is it a gun case? Is it a drug case? Is it a DV case? It's going to depend. As a defense attorney, even if they don't necessarily agree with what you would in life, it doesn't matter. Your only concern is what's for your client, what's a good juror for your client. Like I said, if you want to figure out what somebody's political persuasion is, what's the best way to do it? Juror number 7, Miss Blank, Miss Dagny. Do you have any bumper stickers on your car? And if so, what are they? Okay. What do you do in your spare time? Those kinds of things that a lot of people are, these attorneys in the Chauvin case are getting asked. One of the attorneys said, hey, if we were to meet at a dinner party and we hadn't met before, and after maybe 2 or 3 minutes, what do you think I would probably learn about you? And the gentleman on the stand was like, well, I've been married for 23 years. I have a couple of grown daughters, kind of if general stuff. That's what you want to get to know about people. And it's funny because, like I said, some people, and like when you talk about civil jury trials, they bring in jury consultants, they bring in, you name it, everybody and their brother, because they realize how important it is. People with PhDs in psychology, their body language, they do that. Well, most of us don't have that luxury where we can bring in jury consultants, right? You're looking at the jury consultant. And I think I've had a pretty good run of trying to, pick it, so to speak, pick decent jurors. But the one thing you have to remember is you can't stereotype. And then the other times you have to remember is sometimes you have to stereotype. Okay. Whether it's good, bad, I don't know. That's just the way it is. When you have literally 30 seconds to talk to the potential juror panel and that one person's hands just keeps going up. Yeah, I got something to say. You don't get to talk to everybody. So you got to look and say, oh man, I don't know. This is a college student. Maybe they just don't want to be here. They kind of indicate they don't want to be here. They're crossing their legs. Their arms are crossed, but they only did it when I was talking, not the other guy. I don't know. I mean, so you have to make split-second decisions, and sometimes you have to take a guess. But when you get to talk to people, it's very, very surprising what people will tell you. And jurors do not come in a vacuum. They don't make a decision in a vacuum. They come with their life experiences, and they're able to be there. And that's what you want. I mean, you don't check your common sense at the door when you become a juror. When that jury summons arrives, you don't check your common sense at the door. And that's what you want. So hopefully that answers the question. And like I said, would I want, 12 Trump jurors or 12 Biden jurors? I don't know. It would depend on the case. It would depend on the locale. The only thing that matters is, are they more likely to go with the defendant when they hear the facts or the lack of evidence on the case? I mean, that's not like say, oh, they're a Trump juror on this. What the hell does that mean? I mean, they may be a great juror for this particular case. If somebody was saying, hey, I mean, I don't know, like it's a gun case, they may be saying, I don't want a Biden juror on the case because, all those Biden people hate guns or something along those lines. That's what I'm saying. You don't want a stereotype. Sometimes you have to take that assumption if you don't get to talk to people, but it just depends. Each juror is different. And guess what? Politics oftentimes usually never rears its ugly head in a courtroom. Why? Because it's not supposed to ask. They're not supposed to do that. Penguin, if a lawyer asked me who I voted for, I would refuse to answer. We have a right to a secret ballot. I totally agree. But as I said, that's why I wouldn't ask that question. I would ask questions like, I still think it's good. I mean, think about it. If somebody were to ask you a question, do you have any bumper stickers on your car? What do you think people could tell about you based upon the bumper stickers on your car? Could it be, save the whales, defend the Second Amendment, Trump, Biden, Harris campaign stickers on the button? What could that tell a person that you've only met and you got 30 seconds to find out about you? What do those bumper stickers tell you? What if they say, I don't have any bumper stickers. I like my car. I wouldn't deface my car. That would be sacrilegious. So there you go. It just depends. But I'm telling you, I know it's a long, tedious process to watch voir dire, or in this case, listen to the potential jurors answer for voir dire. But when you hear what these potential jurors say, you have a pretty good idea where they may go and why the defense left people on. There was one, I think he was a man. He was black. I believe he had immigrated from, I think, Haiti or something. And I don't mean to misspeak because I was getting pieces of it yesterday in my ear while I'm doing stuff. But he came here. He was successful, worked. You got to think, well, why would the defense like that guy? Well, defense is like, oh, we don't want black people, and the prosecution's thinking, we don't want little white ladies who are going to clutch their purse, so to speak, right? Well, the defense is thinking, well, the successful immigrant guy is going to say, I've come to America, I've worked hard, and you don't see me on drugs, not like that Floyd guy. May hold Mr. Floyd to a little bit higher standard than others may. And we'll never know for sure unless and until they get to deliberate, right? But that's what I'm saying. There's a method to the madness, and I'm telling you, voir dire is an art. One of the worst voir dires I've ever seen, and I still am trying to figure out what the hell he was trying to do. Because he got up and did his voir dire, and he says, I've got one question for you all. if you had to hand wash your dishes, would you put them in the rack or would you dry them and not put them in the rack? And the people went through and like, dry them, let them dry in the rack. And he got rid of people that answered either way. Like I said, one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. Because I think it was like a pet abuse case, I think. Yeah, it was a guy accused of like killing cats or something. And I got up and like, oh, geez, But I had cat people on the jury because I talked to them and I got the good feeling from them. And they ultimately found my client not guilty in that particular case. So, like I said, I'm not perfect at it. Obviously, I lose trials. I've lost trials. I hate losing. But I still think I'm pretty good at voir dire. Some people are just terrible. It's an art. You have to do it. That's why the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel about it. And the only way you get more comfortable about it is by doing it and seeing what works. So, dang, not sure I would want anyone to under 25 to be in my jury. Well, I'm starting to think I'm not sure when anybody under the age of 40. I think most of them would think, well, does that mean we could like work from home or something? Anyway, we'll see. Wow, we look at that already over an hour. All right. For those of you who are not Patreon members, and before we do this, can we take a quick recess, Frank? Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, we're back. I'm telling you, go to CrimeTalkSearch.com.
Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for...
All right. I'm telling you, go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. You will not be disappointed. There's somebody out there, someone you want to know a little more about. Maybe you just don't get that little warm, fuzzy feeling. Go check it out. All right. I think I missed a super chat, so I went back here. Why no joinder for all defendants in this case? Referring to the Chauvin matter. They were all joined, and then the judge severed them. The prosecution only wanted one trial and had all four officers, former police officers, join for one trial. And then he severed them because under the COVID restrictions, they couldn't put enough people in the courtroom. And apparently they don't have a courtroom big enough for everybody to be there. You know, a couple of attorneys, the defendants. You would need basically a gymnasium to get everybody in there, plus the jurors, which is my position. Well, sounds like the court better go rent some space, but they refused to do that. So the court severed the co-defendants. They go to trial later this summer. So hopefully answered that question on the super chat as well. Want to thank everybody. Now we're going to go do our Patreon live. If you haven't become a Patreon member, please do so. You can join at the link below. And then we will send you a link tonight and you can join our little private Patreon session, which is very similar to this, but it's a lot smaller, so we get to answer your questions. And the bonus is, that's right, you can actually call in, ask me the question, and we can have a conversation. But what do you really get to see? That's right. We come up with a question of the week, and we ask the Magic 8 Ball. And I think the Magic 8 Ball is batting 1,000 right now on the questions that we ask. So, thanks for watching. Please join us if you haven't done so. Become a Patreon member, and we will see you tomorrow on Crime Talk.